Hey there, it's Susan Pierce Thompson and welcome to the weekly vlog. So sugar and flour encapsulate the vast majority of what we need to abstain from to heal our brains of dopamine downregulation, get our insulin, triglycerides, and inflammation low enough for our leptin to come back on board, and to get our system working again well enough that we can experience successful weight loss without our brain tricking us into eating things that we don't want to be eating in quantities that feel out of control, and betraying ourselves again and again against our inborn sense of how we want to be eating, what feels right and good and healthy to eat. Sugar and flour. And with those words, we get most of the territory that's needed, but not all of it. And in today's vlog, I want to talk about one of the little foods that's dangling out there that needs to be included under the blanket of sugar and flour as a little asterisk, and potato chips. Potato chips are not on the Brightline eating program. Now, I can explain this molecularly. Flour is essentially chains of glucose molecules, unmitigated by any helpful fiber to speak of. And in the absence of sugar, the brain will absolutely use flour to hit the same reaction, albeit not as potently. But still, what I found was when I gave up sugar, I would start to eat most of my diet as flour. Most of my diet would become flour. Potato chips are just like white flour. They are chains of glucose molecules without any mitigating fiber to speak of, not enough to be consequential. And even worse, they're, of course, deep fried in really unhealthy vegetable oils, which create their own metabolic damage and so forth. So, and here's the clincher. Research shows they are in the top 3 most addictive foods. Ashley Gearhart has done research on this with just umpty thousands of people. What foods do you binge on? What are the most addictive foods to you? And the top 3 foods are pizza, chocolate, and chips. Pizza, chocolate, and chips. Top 3 most addictive foods. And so we don't go near them. We don't touch them. Not always easy. And I want to share in this vlog the story of my beloved maven, employee of Brightline Eating, the very first Bright Lifer, the very first person to ever start the Brightline Eating Bootcamp, Lyndon Morris Del Rio. She was in the very first bootcamp. And the reason I say she was the first was that she reached out to me privately and needed a phone consultation. So she paid for a phone consultation before the first boot camp. So literally her dollar started the Brightline Eating business in terms of like actually accounts receivable. I love you, Lyndon. And she's now in my mastermind group. So I have been talking with Lyndon for 2 hours a week for whatever it's been now, 6.5, almost 7 years. So Lyndon's binge food of choice when she came into Brightline Eating were potato chips. And 33 days into her journey, 33 days in, she wrote an "I'm divorcing you" letter to her binge food of choice. And I thought, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to read it to you, because sometimes ceremony like this, formality like this, really has import. It really helps. And I watched Lyndon do this. She posted it in our community when she did it. I knew it was a very big deal to her. I think shortly thereafter, she lost the intense charge that this particular food had in her life. She stopped thinking about it as much. I know that now she doesn't think about it at all. I mean, gosh, she hasn't mentioned this food in 5 years of Maven's calls or whatever. So anyway, but I know that, listen to the language in this letter, because it really speaks to how emotional our relationship can be with certain foods. Ode to potato chips. I've been thinking about you a lot over this past week. I've been remembering all the good times. How much solace you brought to me when I was lonely and afraid. When no one else was there for me, you always were. You never abandoned me, my most faithful and beautiful companion. Through thick and thin, up and down, joyous and sad. In all ways, you made yourself available to me. I don't know that I've ever had that degree of loyalty to anyone or anything else in my life. You were always the key that fit the lock. It seems that this is all I have ever known, this love affair with you. I'm not sure when or how or even why things changed, but my loyalty to you and how I saw your beauty started to shift. It was as if you'd taken on another color in your temperament, one I didn't understand, didn't want to understand. People started making suggestions, such as you might not be good for me, and that time apart would be an intelligent way to assess the impact you were having on my life. I tried to break away from you so many times, and every time I was unsuccessful. As each season of leaving you unfolded, it became clear upon clear that what had once been an even necessary relationship, full of comfort, love, and hopes, had traveled well beyond anything that was now remotely even functional. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate you. I still love you. I take full responsibility for this mess. I have always been guilty of never being able to disidentify from my relationship with you. Everything I did in life was prefaced with whether you would be around, would I see you in the day or that evening, hiding our relationship under cover of darkness and other secrecies so as not to incur the whispers of shame from my own very tortured and tattered heart. Last week it struck me dumb. I knew I had to divorce you. A few years back, I toyed with the idea of breaking up. I didn't get much distance with that. It wasn't final enough and didn't cut the abscess that our relationship had become at its source. Probably because, in true addictive fashion, one really is too many and 1,000 never enough. That is how it always went between you and I. Even a small taste of you, and it would start all over again. There would be no successful harm reduction strategy here. The obsessing, the haunting memories that could no longer live up to the reality of what we had become. I was like a junkie chasing a high that was never to be as good as it was in the beginning. I've been putting this off all week, but I know I needed to do it. I am leaving you. I am not going away for a little while. I am not entering a breakup where we might see each other again. No, I am leaving you for good, my beloved. All that we were, all that I became because of my relationship with you, is now over. We are separate, and we will remain that way forever. Tonight, I will sleep true as a free woman. Whew. I think maybe someone who's never been really addicted to a food might think that that is ludicrous, ridiculous. And I think that there are people watching this vlog with tears streaming down their face right now who get it as deeply as it is possible to understand another living human being. My ode wouldn't be to potato chips, it would be to cookie dough. You know, we all have our thing. We all have our thing. But Lyndon is a free woman today. She is. 7 years. 7 years at maintenance with bright line eating, without a break in her bright lines. And some of that is because she did the work. She did the work early on to stay absolutely true. And writing that "I am divorcing you" letter was a big part in her journey. I watched it happen, and I watched her never look back. Well done, Lyndon. I love you. And for anyone who was fuzzy-headed about that particular food and where we stand with it in Bright Line Eating, let's just be really clear. There is no place for that food in Bright Line Eating. We all do better avoiding all of the 3 most addictive foods on planet Earth. I love you. That's the weekly vlog. I'll see you next week.